Hey guys, it's Katie here with Life the Mundane and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I'm a homeschool mom of 6 beautiful, crazy kiddos. I have 2 that have some special needs and we are just rolling with the punches here and embracing those mundane moments and making the most of them. So today we are going to be discussing homeschooling preschool. What do your kids actually need to know? What do you actually need to be working on to prepare them for kindergarten? So let's get started. So if you're looking to the answer to this question, you probably found a myriad of answers, and it probably depends a little bit on where you've been looking. If you've been looking at sources that are preparing you for traditional school setting, public or private school, they're probably leaning you more towards really starting those heavy academics at a preschool age. Because in case you haven't heard, the kindergarten that our kids are doing in public and private school right now at this stage is what we were doing in first grade growing up. Truthfully, I've talked to many public school teachers, and they say that developmentally, it doesn't match up. They're trying to push these kids to excel in and to meet these testing requirements and to, do all of these things educationally that their brains and bodies aren't quite ready for. So it ends up with a lot of frustration and tears. Some kids succeed for sure. I'm not bashing public school or private school whatsoever, but it causes a lot of frustration for our kiddos when we don't teach developmentally appropriate material and when we expect things out of them that they may not be ready for. Our kids develop at different levels. It's the same thing when they hit school age, but for some reason, the world's told us that when they hit 5, they should be headed to kindergarten, they should be able to hit all these things, they should be able to read, they should be able to do all these things, and that's not necessarily accurate. You may have also stumbled across this standard homeschool answer, which if you've posted on any board or public forum of any kind asking about preschool curriculum, you asked a simple, honest question. You probably had several very passionate moms lovingly potentially jump down your throat saying, "What are you doing? You should never do curriculum for preschool. They're too young. All they need is playing and reading, and you shouldn't be doing anything else." Okay, you can actually do both. And I'm going to kind of share with you a median to all of this and hopefully help you sharing things that I wish I would have known when I first started homeschooling my little ones. And hopefully it can help relieve some of the guilt that you may have pushed down your throat from either side of the spectrum and give you some direction about where to go next. So let's jump into these tips. So in preparation for this video, I not only took my own experience, but I also interviewed a few other public school teachers of kindergarten kids, and I wanted to know, what did they feel like was developmentally appropriate? Not what the school system is dictating, but for more what they would prefer, what they think is important, what skills do they think is important to see. So I'm going to incorporate a lot of their little advice and tidbits in, as well as my own personal thoughts. So the first thing that was explained to me that I thought was just amazing, like life-changing, guys, is the difference between formal teaching and education and exposure. All right, in preschool, our goal is primarily to expose our kids to as many things as possible, as many times as possible, because repetition is key. If you've ever watched a kindergartner, or if you've ever watched a preschooler, listen to Baby Shark and then listen to it again and listen to it again and listen to it again, and now they can do the whole thing over again. That's how they learn, right? They just absorb things. If you hear a little preschooler, saying something, sassy that they've heard from their siblings or from TV or whatever, right? They absorb, they're exposed to things, they absorb it. They were never taught how to sing Baby Shark. They were never taught how to have an attitude. They absorb those things from exposure and then they mimic what they see. So there's a big difference here. And I think the big thing that we have to remember in preschool is that our job is to expose them to as many beautiful, good, educational, awesome things and do that frequently versus formal sit down in a curriculum bookwork type of way. That makes sense. And that was huge to me. So I was sitting here going, it's not my job to make sure my child gets it. It's just my child to make sure that they have that feast in front of them of good books, good information, and that kind of thing. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as we jump into some of these other things that we should remember. Another thing that we should remember about teaching preschool is that the formal instruction that you may need, like I said, there's exposure and there's instruction. The instructions that we do need is very, very, very little of the letters and the numbers and the colors and those things. Those things will happen from exposure, from good exposure and constant exposure. Your kids will pick up on those things. But what requires more of our formal teaching is those things that are more character training and that more have to do with life skills. Life skills like potty training, huge. If you can get potty training out of the way before kindergarten, and I know some of you are sitting here going, well, of course I would have it out of the way before kindergarten. And others are saying, I really hope we get it figured out by then. Wherever you are, it's okay. Just shoot to work on those skills. Start working in the preschool age on simple things. Even them having you help with simple tasks like folding laundry. They can work on fine motor skills with folding and sorting clothes and talking about colors and different parts of your body that the different clothing pieces go onto. Those are good life skills for a toddler, for a preschooler. Another thing that is really, really important for your kids is learning how to have some sit down time, right? So our kids at this age, they just play and they're just bouncing around or whatever, totally developmentally appropriate. But if there's never a time where we have them sit down to do a given task, think about transitioning from that all the time to trying to do kindergarten. Now, kindergarten should still be plenty play-based in my opinion, but there are going to be times where they're asked to sit down and practice writing their name or practice doing whatever. If you've never taught your toddler preschooler how to sit down for just 5 minutes, you're going to run into some serious struggles, whether you're going into a classroom setting or you're homeschooling. So I would encourage you to consider maybe doing a blanket time kind of concept. There is a wide range on this idea, but all I am talking about is placing a blanket out on the floor, or if they are young, even, not even walking yet, you can put them in a pack and play. And have them sitting there, giving them 1 to 2 items, very, very minimal, because the more things you give them, the more opportunity for distraction or frustration. Give them a few things, set a timer, start out very, very small, 2, 3, tops 5 minutes. Have them sit there and do that every single day for a week or 2 weeks. And just if they get off, no harsh criticism or just, oh, no, we're going to sit back down here, and have them sit there and then turn your back, turn away. You might have to stay standing close to keep sitting them back there for a while, but they'll get the idea very, very quickly. But teach them how to do that. How to stay. They can look at a book. It's fine. It's not like they're being punished. We want them to learn how to have that alone time and how to kind of have that structured sit down time. So maybe consider something like that. Then you work your way up over time to more and more time. This will really help your kid as they learn to develop and grow. Another one is if you guys have church services and you have your child learn to sit with you in church, or maybe you sit down and do a coloring sheet once a day, and you want to have them sit with you. Whatever it is, just practice that life skill of being able to sit and be somewhat quiet for a short period of time. Again, we're not talking anything crazy here, but start working on that life skill. Start working on the life skills of obedience. This is such an important one. And I forgot this. I didn't realize this, I guess, as a younger mom when I first started out, that you can train your kids to be obedient and teach them how to be obedient in a fun, engaging way. I thought that obedience training just came from the day-to-day life situations, the 1,000,001 times a day that we have the opportunity to teach our kids about obedience. And that is true. But why not take some time set aside to really work with your kids on those obedience things in a fun way, not outside of any kind of discipline issue? So for instance, you might have your child be in the other room and you're going to tell them, when you hear mommy call your name, you're going to run to me as fast as you can, and you're going to say, "Coming, mommy." And they're going to do that. And you guys just keep playing that game and you practice, right? To do that over and over again very quickly. And then over time, you're like, okay, we're going to play. You go downstairs and play with your Duplos or, whatever, your blocks. And you wait and listen for mommy. So they're going to play for a little while. And then you're going to call, "Tommy, come here." And he's going to say, "Coming, mommy." And he's going to run as fast as he can. And then you're going to praise and reward everything that you want to see repeated. Also, things with this is a good thing to practice saying, "Oh, stop," and having them stop right away. Red light, green light is a great example of that. And you can just turn it into, "Oh, come here. Oh, stop." Because it's important for our kids to learn these things when they're getting ready to run into the road or danger situations, getting ready to touch the stove. We need to know that when we say stop, they're going to stop right away. Not 10 seconds after, not after they've gotten a long explanation, but know that they are able to obey that. So spend your time, that focused training, teaching time, working on those life skills versus what we consider a typical education, the character traits and life skills versus the typical education, and expose them to a lot for them to learn that education, if that makes sense. Okay, so what about reading and playing, right? We talked about that earlier, that a lot of people are like, just read and play. And I 100% agree with the concept that I think is behind some of those aggressive comments. Yes, reading to your kids good literature and letting them learn through play is fantastic. But if you are like I was at that point, and maybe you're not, and that's fantastic, I was overwhelmed. They were like, just do all the reading you're doing, you'll be fine. And I was like, I'm not reading. I mean, I was reading occasionally a bedtime book, but it was the same book every single night over and over again. And I didn't know what to read, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't know what to do. And just felt really, really stressed by all of that. So therefore I tried to put them in a curriculum, and that didn't work well either. So what I would encourage you, mama, if you were anything like I was, is to just give yourself a tiny bit of structure connected to things you already do. So if you guys saw my video on my Homeschool Mom Q&A, I'll post it above if you didn't get a chance to see it. But I answered the question about routines and how do you start a good routine when you feel like life is chaotic. And I had 4 kids, 4 and under, 2 of which who had very severe special needs. And I was drowning. And they were like, just create a routine. And I was like, no day looks the same. So what I started to do was to attach tasks to mealtime. Because no matter how crazy the day is, we do eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, can't guarantee you whether it's going to be at 9 or at 11, but we are going to eat breakfast. So I started attaching things to those things, and that's what I would recommend for a preschool age. I would say start doing a read aloud, some book that you read aloud, just a picture book. Okay, we're not talking anything complicated. At breakfast time, either right after breakfast or during breakfast while they're eating, because then their hands are busy. Whenever that is, and then maybe doing something like that at lunchtime. Maybe we're gonna play a game together, some kind of, like I said, character building, behavior building, life skill building game after lunch. Just make it simple and doable for you is the big thing. When it comes to what to read, your library has a huge array of options. There are also fantastic books. I want to say Honey for a Child's Heart. That's right, I'll put it here. If not, I'll put the right book here. And I will drop links down to the book below. But it has broken down by age group what books are really, really good, amazing books for you to read to your kids. So if you need a book list, go there. I also personally found it helpful when I started moving to more themed things. Not uber complicated, but just going, this week or this month, we're going to learn about the circus. And again, we're going to expose my child to this circus or to farm animals or to community helpers or whatever it is. And I would just go to the library and take everything off the picture book section that had anything to do with that. I would bring it home and we would read a couple of books here or there when we got the time. And we might watch a YouTube video on, an age appropriate YouTube video on that topic, and just point out those things. That can be as simple as it is. So just remember that the reading part of it is super important. It is good to read to your kids, but if you're overwhelmed by it, there are resources to help you start that process and to kind of know where to go with that. Also on the play side of it, yes, kids need to play to learn. But I would urge you that there are times where you might want to have more structured play or guided play is what I would call it, or times where you need to evaluate what they're playing with. So if your preschoolers are playing video games, most preschoolers are not playing video games, but if they're playing video games or they're playing, they're watching movies or they're doing other things like that, there's not a lot of opportunities for that learning to happen naturally through play. Even if they are playing with toys that are just noise-making toys, they don't require any imagination, they don't have moving pieces to them, even if that's all they're playing with, I would encourage you to have some time set aside for positive directed play. So an example of directed play that also plays into that teaching skills of character and life skills would be to give your kids a sequencing task. My son did this a lot when he was in speech therapy, and it was amazing. They would give him a toy horse, let's just say, and they give him a bucket of water, and they give him a cloth, and they would give him a saddle. And so it was his job, and they laid out for him, and they actually did it video on an iPad so that he could see, because he struggled with processing verbal directions. He's a visual learner, but you can demonstrate for them. We're gonna pick up the horse, we're gonna bathe it in our bucket of water, we're gonna wash it all off and clean. Then we're gonna put it on the towel, we're gonna dry him off, and then we're gonna put the saddle on so that he's ready to ride. Giving them some tasks like that can be a fantastic way. Now, I will say that is a 1, 2, 3, that's a 4-step command. I would not start there with a preschooler at all. Start with a 2-step command. Build your way up there. But I think taking that opportunity to do some guided play like that, taking the opportunity to give them good tools that, like good toys that help their brain. Play kitchens are a great example, because they can play home. They get to play the things that they're exposed to. Remember, they're going to mimic the good and the bad. Just understand that, and make sure that you're exposing them to as much good as you can. Being outside is fantastic for your kids. Being outside, just playing in nature, but also pointing things out. Going, oh, look at that bird. When they're preschool age, talking about colors and shapes and numbers outside. Look, the sky is blue. Look, that pool is blue. They're both blue. Oh my goodness. Just repeating, just narrating what you're seeing when you go on a walk. Wow, this road is so flat. That is so flat. See that? That tree is bumpy. You know, that kind of thing. Just telling them what you're seeing is exposing them to a lot, and really, really, really helpful in the long run. You may want to start exposing them to some of that rote memorization, things like songs. Kids learn so well with songs, and doing things like the ABCs, songs for counting, songs for shapes, colors, those kinds of things. But understand that there is a big difference between the rote memorization of knowing your alphabet, meaning knowing the song, and being able to look at a letter and say, can you point to me, which one's the letter M? Point to the letter M. Or what sound does this make? Or blending them together. Those are a totally different skill. And it's okay if your child is not there yet when it comes to being ready for kindergarten. Work on exposing them to as much as you can. So we're driving by a store, and we see McDonald's, and the kid yells out McDonald's because maybe they've been there a lot. And you're going to say, yeah, McDonald's, that's right. You read the letter, you read the word, it's McDonald's. And McDonald's are McDonald's, and then they can repeat that back to you. So just, again, the more you expose, the better. But it does have to be intentional. I feel like what I don't like about those answers of just read and play is that it takes it off of you. That outside of the reading part, that everything is just going to come to your child naturally. If they just read books and they play, then they're going to be ready for everything. And that's not at all the case, at least not that I've experienced or these other teachers that I have talked to. And instead, I would say it takes a lot of intentionality, not necessarily curriculum, not necessarily book work, not that any of that is evil or wrong, but I would say the majority of your time should be spent trying to expose your kids to as much as possible and taking those teaching opportunities to work on that character building and that life skills part. I hope this has been helpful to you guys. Please drop down in the comments, what other things do you think are important for preschoolers to learn? This is definitely not an all-inclusive list, but I hope it will help trigger you and guide you as you go along in this journey. And I hope you will check around our other videos on the channel. If you love this, please subscribe, give a big thumbs up. It really, really helps the channel just get out to more moms and be able to share hopefully some encouragement and love for those that are feeling lost and frustrated and frazzled. So please comment, be sure to stick around because we have great videos coming up. I'm doing my Happy Cheetah review. I've been using this reading curriculum for a while and I'm excited to share with you guys what my thoughts are on it. And on Saturday, we have a video coming up where I did a little social experiment and allowed my kids to be the ones to teach and pick what we learned for a week. And I'm going to share with you guys the life lessons that I learned from that, as well as what they decided to pick. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.